The Qing Dynasty began to bud in the year 1600s after the fall of the Ming Dynasty and was largely driven by the Manchurians. The fall of the Ming Dynasty caused devastation in the economy system, which desperately requires fixing. Thus, the economy system in the early Qing Dynasty was rather weak. Merchants inherited a low social status in the community, and they conducted unethical business practices, which only benefit themselves and further harm the economy. The misconduct ranges from taking advantage of one another to fabricating trade to trick other merchants. Merchants practice these inadequate actions because, according to Confucius' belief, they are to acquire the social status of a low-level citizen. This status gave off an impression that merchants have nothing to lose, since they are already labeled as low-level citizens. Thus, conducting unethical behavior is seemingly normal. Wealthy merchants in particular were further stigmatized, as they are termed greedy for privatizing public wealth for personal use. Despite the continuous immoral business practices, trade in the Qing Dynasty grew and expanded exponentially. Merchants held a dual role in the Qing Dynasty. They are responsible for both autonomy and elements of state control. These further enable merchants to act fraudulent because they are allowed to modulate good deal of personal trading activities without the supervision of officials. Involvement of court only occurred in the occasion of regulating commodities that are important, such as salt, or regulating trade pathways of grain from south to north. Following that, this dual system enables a blend in the social classes, in which sons of wealthy merchants may take examination to move into the class of literati. Later, in the year 1684, China reopened its door to trade with the outside world. Canton quickly emerged as one of the few important ports in China. Usually, the Chinese sell porcelain, tea, and silk, with exchange with tin, copper, lead, iron, and wool.
In the following years, as the numbers of trade with Western countries increased, Chinese government worried that the Western traders' influence will increase and sought to limit their activities on China, especially after the British attempt to expand their trade to some of the North China ports, such as Ningpo. The British prefer this port as it is nearer to the main centers of Chinese tea production and silk manufacturing. The Chinese, having a fear that a second Macau will occur, they established a new trading system called the Canton system. In the Canton system, the government established rules that allow people to trade only on the southern part of Canton, which is now known as Guangzhou. Moreover, all merchants are banned to have direct contact with Chinese traders, and they were forced to convey information to buffers, such as the Hong merchants. These merchants formed a guild called the Kohong in 1720. Prices were negotiated by the guild with the up-country suppliers. The Kohong were responsible for taxing the goods traded, both imports and exports. They also invented standardization of terms of trade, such as the weight that everyone had to use to weigh the silver and the exchange rate for the silver coins with the trade goods. They were also in charge of standardizing foreign matters. The Kohong merchants had to grant access to every foreign ship coming into the harbor and take full responsibility for all personnel associated with the ship. Hong merchants have a unique place among Chinese merchants. The number of Kohong merchants was restricted. Thus, they become the most prominent and wealthy merchants in China. The most well-known merchants is Hokkwa. However, there were many downsides to the system that became a great concern to the Western traders, as it is not efficient to trade with just a small number of Kohong merchants. As the number of ships increased, the number of Hong merchants and associated service providers didn't, resulting in the lengthy waiting periods. With a large amount of responsibility given to a relatively small number of firms, corruption became prominent in the trading process.
Created using Powtoon.